This is Duolingo, the app with the green owl that guilt trips you at 11 p.m. to do your Spanish lesson. It was supposed to make language learning free for everyone, a revolutionary idea. But the app is under fire, accused of making the learning worse with every update and selling out by gutting its team and replacing the soul of the company with AI. But it wasn't always like this. Only recently was Duolingo at the height of its popularity, a company many people loved. So what happened? How did they fail so spectacularly? Was this just bad business, or was this secretly written into Duolingo's DNA from the very beginning? Let me explain. The Duolingo that you're familiar with nowadays is quite different to how it initially existed. In 2012, Duolingo first launched publicly and centered around translating real sentences from the internet. Part of the learning process would include Duolingo pulling sentences from existing articles and giving them to their users to translate from English, the language they were learning, to their native language. As Duolingo founder Louis van Aan put it, the beginners do the simple sentences, so the more advanced ones do the long sentences or fix them, and that works out. And the twist that made it clever was that companies like CNN and BuzzFeed would pay Duolingo for these crowdsourced translations. They would send articles to Duolingo, and a total of 30 to 40 users would end up helping translate the article through an editing system similar to what Wikipedia uses. But there was a catch. As the user base exploded past the 5 million mark, Duolingo realized that crowd translations weren't consistent enough to sell reliably and at scale. So they started moving away from this strategy towards something cleaner that could fund the app without paywalling it. In mid-2014, Duolingo introduced Test Center, a 20-minute at-home English proficiency exam you could take on your phone or laptop. Priced at just $20 at launch, this was much cheaper than the official proficiency exams such as the TOEFL, which typically cost hundreds of dollars. In fact, the founder Louis van Aan grew up in Guatemala and would mention how expensive and inconvenient English certification would be for people outside big cities in developing countries. This would be the solution to that, and it also helped their business case. Duolingo now had a more consistent and scalable revenue stream compared to the translation services before. The next goal was now simple for Duolingo: get more users and keep having them come back. If Duolingo was going to work at scale and grow, people couldn't just try it once, they had to build a habit. So they gamified the app. They added streaks, which count how many days in a row you practice. And this sounds simple, but it taps into something powerful. Once you've started a streak, you feel like you've worked for that streak yourself. It almost feels like something you built. The longer it gets, the more you get the feeling that you're protecting something valuable. That feeling at play is something called loss aversion. Losing a 3-day streak is annoying. Losing a 30-day streak hurts. It'll take you a month to get back to where you already were. And so losing a 300-day streak feels almost unacceptable. So even if it's just for a quick 3-minute lesson, you keep coming back to Duolingo just to keep the streak alive. And the clever part is that the effect compounds. Every extra day increases the cost of missing tomorrow. It's the same logic that Snapchat uses to make it so sticky. After a while, this streak builds a habit, which for Duolingo meant more users active on the app every day. But it isn't the habit of learning a language that is being built. It's the habit of keeping the streak going, which is going to be quite important to keep in mind for later. On top of streaks, they made progress visible with XP, and you could earn gems for completing lessons. XP was a way to show and quantify how much work someone put into learning a language, something that is usually quite invisible if you're taking normal language lessons. It's understandable how this can give users a sense of accomplishment for every lesson they complete, and gems would let you unlock little boosts as well as streak saves, helping you get more XP and essentially keep the loop going. They also introduced a weekly leaderboard, where you compete with other learners on how much XP you earned in that week. The goal is to climb the leaderboard and by the end of the week, be promoted to a higher league, or even win a medal by finishing first, second, or third on the leaderboard. Every week it resets, so there's always a new league to climb. Duolingo also layered badges on top of all these other strategies. Badges are basically milestones for hitting goals. Finishing units, staying consistent, climbing to the Diamond League and winning it. It's another way to track progress and compare with friends that not only reminds you you're getting somewhere, but gives you something to work towards. None of these features are new on their own, but together they turn language learning into a loop that you actually want to return to. It's actually very similar to the psychology Luckin Coffee uses to get customers to come back consistently, which I covered in my recent video about them on why they're growing so fast. Anyway, this gamification is where Duolingo starts to become the modern version we're now familiar with. By 2017, this strategy was working. They blew past 200 million registered users, and the brand started to live outside the app. The owl wasn't just a mascot anymore. It turned into a meme. People joked about the threatening reminders Duolingo would give to extend your streak, and the company leaned into it on social media. They would start to post content using the unhinged Duo persona, and people loved it. There was something human and funny it brought to the usually boring process of learning a language. And that humor pulled real growth because the jokes pointed back to the app, convincing more people to open Duolingo, do a lesson, and keep their streak going. The next big shift Duolingo made was to do with their interface, and this is where their decisions start to annoy people quite a bit. See, for years, you moved through a skill tree type of path, but in 2022, Duolingo replaced it with a single learning path, a guided linear track. The company's explanation was that it removed the guesswork, reduced decision fatigue, and it would help you build lasting language skills with a guided path. On paper, that sounds reasonable, and giving people less choice does make it easier to just not think and do the next lesson. But in practice, it makes it worse. The new path made it harder to jump around for targeted lessons or revisit a specific grammar topic. Everyone learns languages in different ways and has their own strengths and weaknesses, but Duolingo disregarded that, forcing everyone to take the same path. It might be better in terms of ease of taking action and doing the next lesson, but it's not for learning a language. By the way, during the research for this video, I was reminded of this old skill tree way of learning, and I personally forgot how much nicer this is compared to the new guided learning path. It was so much easier to navigate and practice a language intentionally. I still believe they made a mistake overhauling the interface, and it really demonstrated the point where Duolingo started to show that they prioritize active users rather than proper language learning. And while I speak from experience learning and knowing quite a few languages, that's not just me saying it. Many linguists echo the same feelings. While Duolingo is a fun and convenient way to get started, it's not enough to become properly fluent because it lacks grammar and cultural insights, among other things as well. The thing is, that gap used to actually sort of be filled by people on Duolingo. For years, if a sentence didn't click, you could open the discussion thread under it and get a native speaker's explanation, or a simple, here's why your answer is wrong. But in March 2022, Duolingo shut those forums down, leaving them read-only and removing that layer of community corrections and human nuance. It made the app simpler to run, sure, but for anyone actually trying to understand the language, it took away that one place where the lessons felt human. And talking about the recent lack of human input, we get to what a lot of people are leaving Duolingo nowadays for: AI. Duolingo introduced Duolingo Max, a subscription that was even more expensive than the already existing premium ad-free experience that added 2 ChatGPT-4 features: Explain Why Answer, where it gives you a breakdown of why you were right or wrong, and Roleplay, where you can chat with the AI character to practice conversation. And that's only the beginning with AI. Duolingo confirmed that in 2023, it cut around 10% of its contractors as it leaned more on AI to generate and maintain lessons. A previous contractor who was laid off wrote that the reason Duolingo gave is that AI can come up with content and translations, alternative translations, and pretty much anything else translators did. They kept a couple people on each team and called them content curators. They simply check the AI crap that gets produced and then push it through. Users felt the change almost immediately. As more AI-generated content rolled out, learners started reporting repetitive drills, odd sentences, and inconsistencies. Some deleted the app and intentionally broke multi-year streaks in protest. Others stayed but complained that lessons felt shallower than before. But that didn't stop Duolingo from pushing AI even harder. Earlier this year, Duolingo revealed an email from the CEO that stated they were going to be AI first. This immediately drew backlash, with this for many users being the final straw to stop using Duolingo altogether. But if you zoom out, none of this comes out of thin air. Duolingo's founder has a history of AI and seemingly having unspoken motives behind the clean and honorable public reasons, such as with CAPTCHA. Before Duolingo, he created CAPTCHA and reCAPTCHA, those prove you're not a robot puzzles. Millions of people would type words that character reading systems would not be able to read, and would select specific boxes for images which only a human at that time could accurately do. The twist is that all of this was essentially unpaid human effort to digitize books and newspapers, as well as train AIs in this type of recognition. It's now not that surprising to see Duolingo starting out having the idea of bringing language learning to the world for free, and later evolving into what it is now. In July 2025, Duolingo officially introduced a stamina-style energy system to replace hearts. The company's stated reason was simple: hearts punish mistakes, especially for beginners, and were discouraging. But this is not at all what people thought. Apparently it made it so that you can maybe make it through 2 full lessons if you're lucky before running out. I personally don't have this newer update of Duolingo, but it sounds like an awful update. There are droves of people who are complaining about it, with many giving up streaks longer than 1,000 days simply because the new update is so bad and works against the goal of learning a language, and is simply just there to get you to pay. So, has all of this hurt their numbers? Not really. At least that's what we know as recent as Q2 2025. In its Q2 2025 shareholder letter, the company writes that this energy system increased daily active users, median time spent learning, and subscriber conversion during the iOS rollout. Duolingo's stock price is, however, down almost 20% in the past 6 months, but it's entirely possible that this just might be a small inconvenience for Duolingo in the long term. Duolingo has stated that their mission is to develop the best education in the world and make it universally available, but their actions don't really line up. It's visible that many people fell out of love with Duolingo for this reason. A strong community comes from one thing: keeping your promise and living your mission. And Duolingo didn't. Even when metrics look great, drifting from your mission is expensive, but you don't pay in revenue. You pay in trust. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'll like this one too. See you next time.